The Galactic Coalition warship Eternal Dawn had seen better days. After 3 months of continuous patrol along the disputed rim, every surface bore the grime of deep space operations. Every corridor smelled of recycled air and unwashed bodies, and morale hung by a thread thinner than spider silk. Commander Rayan of the Krillian Empire stood in the observation deck, his forearms crossed in a gesture that screamed irritation. His crystalline skin, normally a vibrant purple, had dulled to an ugly gray-brown. Beside him, Captain Era, the only human aboard, stared out at the stars with her characteristic calm. "The crew is fragrant," Rayan said delicately, his translator struggling with the diplomatic phrasing. Era snorted. "Commander, with all due respect, we smell like a garbage scow had a baby with a locker room. We need a proper laundry day." "Laundry day?" Rayan's head crest fluttered in confusion. The translator offered no clarification. "Elaborate. Back home, humans dedicate entire days to cleaning everything. Clothes, bedding, ourselves, our quarters, everything gets scrubbed top to bottom." Era's eyes gleamed with an enthusiasm Rayan found mildly alarming. "It's therapeutic." Rayan's translator buzzed uncertainly over the word therapeutic. Eventually settling on culturally significant madness, he decided not to pursue that line of inquiry. "Our species perform hygiene rituals individually as needed," Rayan explained. "The Krillians shed our outer skin layer weekly. The Vexians secrete cleaning enzymes. The Therasian cubs groom each other's fur. There's no need for—" "That's exactly the problem," Era interrupted. "Everyone's doing the bare minimum because we're exhausted and demoralized. We need a reset. A whole ship cleaning event. Trust me." Rayan's experience with human suggestions ranged from surprisingly effective to catastrophically brilliant. He sighed through his respiratory slits. "Very well. You have authorization to organize this. Laundry day, but keep it contained and efficient." Era's smile should have warned him. 48 hours later, Rayan watched in growing horror as his warship descended into what could only be described as organized chaos. The Therasian cubs' young soldiers, barely out of adolescence, had taken to Era's instructions with terrifying enthusiasm. These leonine warriors, each standing 7 feet tall with razor claws and combat training, had somehow been transformed into an army of fanatical cleaners. "Everything must be washed," declared Ensign Cracks, his golden mane dripping with soapy water. "The human era has shown us the way." "Everything," chorused his packmates. Brandishing scrub brushes like weapons, Rayan fled down the corridor as a tidal wave of foam pursued him. Propelled by a dozen cubs wielding industrial cleaning hoses originally designed for decontamination procedures, he rounded a corner and nearly collided with Lieutenant Vex, the Vexian tactical officer. "Commander." Vex's compound eyes whirled in distress. "The cubs have declared Section 7 dirty and forcibly removed all personnel for deep cleaning. They're using the sonic decontamination equipment." "On the section?" "On the personnel, sir." A high-pitched scream echoed down the corridor. Definitely Corporal Thresh, the notoriously Bathiverse Grungarian. Rayan activated his communicator. "Captain Era, report to the bridge immediately." "Little busy, Commander." Era's voice came through amid sounds of splashing and enthusiastic roaring. "The cubs are washing the fighter bay." "Well, they started with the fighters, but then someone said the bay itself looked dirty. And now they're cleaning the walls. And I think they just dragged Sergeant Crawl in because he had grease on his uniform, Captain Era." "Oh, hold on." Cracks, no. We don't wash the electronics." "Yes, I know they're dirty, but no, the console is supposed to be not that bucket." The communication cut off amid a tremendous splash and several apologetic roars. Rayan pinched his primary nose ridge and headed toward the fighter bay, wading through ankle-deep water that flowed cheerfully down the corridor. He passed a group of cubs efficiently scrubbing graffiti off, bulkheads graffiti that had been there for 2 decades and survived 4 ship retrofits. He passed another group soaping down a terrified engineering team who had made the mistake of looking insufficiently clean. He passed his own quarters and witnessed Through the open door, a cub named Mrala carefully washing his collection of meditation crystals in what smelled suspiciously like lavender soap. The fighter bay was a vision from a fever dream. Every surface gleamed. Every fighter shone like it had just rolled off the production line. Every piece of equipment sparkled. And in the center of it all, surrounded by 24 extremely pleased with themselves Theracean cubs, stood Era and a very wet, very soapy Sergeant Crawl. "Commander," Era saluted, grinning. "Laundry day is a complete success." "You've flooded 3 decks, Rand said flatly. "Cleaned 3 decks, Era corrected. "There's a difference." Krax padded forward, his combat armor gleaming, his claws actually visible for the first time in months. "Commander Rayan, sir, we have discovered the sacred human art of cleaning. It brings great honor to make things pure. We request permission to wash everything on the ship." "Everything?" Rayan repeated weakly. "Everything," roared the assembled cubs with religious fervor. Rayan looked at Era. Era shrugged. "I might have mentioned that cleanliness was next to godliness, and that humans considered it a warrior's discipline to maintain pristine equipment, and possibly that the cleanest soldiers were the most respected in human military tradition." "Did you also mention," Rayan asked, his voice dangerously quiet, "that washing everything includes forcibly bathing soldiers?" "I said everyone should be clean," Era protested. The cubs interpreted that ... enthusiastically. As if to punctuate her point, a squad of cubs marched past, dragging a squirming Vexian officer toward what they'd apparently designated the cleaning station. Rayan made a decision. "Fine, if we're doing this, we're doing it properly. All sections will undergo deep cleaning. All personnel will report for hygiene inspections. We will emerge from this laundry day as the cleanest ship in the Coalition fleet." The cubs roared their approval. "But," Rayan continued, fixing Era with all 4 of his eyes, "you will create protocols to prevent personnel from being physically dragged to washing stations against their will." "Fair," Era agreed. 3 days later, the Eternal Dawn arrived at Coalition Command for resupply. The inspection team's report was the highest rated in the station's history. The ship gleamed. The crew sparkled. Even the normally crusty admiral performed a double take at the spotless corridors. "How did you accomplish this, Commander Rayan?" the admiral asked. Rayan glanced at Era, who smiled innocently. The Theracean cubs, arranged in perfect formation behind her, looked equally innocent if one could ignore the scrub brushes hanging from their belts like sidearms. "The human mentioned laundry day," Rayan said simply. "The cubs washed everything." "Everything?" the admiral asked. From somewhere down the corridor came a muffled yelp and the sound of enthusiastic scrubbing. "Everything," Rayan confirmed. The admiral looked thoughtful. "I don't suppose you could spare Captain Era to implement this protocol across the fleet?" Era's eyes lit up dangerously. Rayan's crest flattened in resignation. Humanity, he reflected, didn't conquer the galaxy with weapons. They conquered it with enthusiasm, soap, and the ability to convince young warriors that cleaning was the highest martial art. And somehow, that was the most terrifying thing of all. The end.